So today I will explain why I believe Paraguay is set to boom over the coming decades. I know that many people will think that's a joke, however, it is not. You see, to this day, Paraguay has been a very poor country. However, my bet is that this will likely change completely. You see, as I already said here on my channel, what makes a country rich is not, for example, its natural resources. No, if that were the case, how could Venezuela be so poor, right? Even with the largest oil reserves in the world. And on the flip side, how could Singapore be so rich? I mean, Singapore doesn't have a lot of natural resources, right? It is basically a sandbank. So, how could that happen? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Singapore became so rich because it was able to attract capital and investments. As Singapore started to offer low taxes, little bureaucracy, and a business-friendly environment, money simply flooded the country. And that's basically how Singapore got so rich. And you see, I know that I might sound crazy, but I see Paraguay following the same path. Really, I know that's hard to believe. After all, if you look at Asunción, which is Paraguay's capital, you will see the opposite of a highly developed city, right? I mean, the sidewalks are all broken, lots of residential houses, few buildings. However, we need to make an effort and try to see beyond the present and across time. Let's not forget that, for example, Shenzhen in China was a fishing village back in the 80s. Today, though, after being turned into a special economic zone by Deng Xiaoping, Shenzhen is a mega city with 17 million people known as the Silicon Valley of China. So things change, man, and they can go far beyond our imagination. But that's what I think will happen to Paraguay. I think it will develop like crazy. Now, why do I believe that? Because basically, Paraguay is creating the perfect conditions for development to take place. And why do I say that? Well, starting with the first thing that caught my attention about Paraguay. So first, Paraguay has a very attractive tax system. Paraguay, in case you're not aware of, operates under a territorial tax regime. That means that you only pay taxes on the money you make inside the country. So, let's say you live in Paraguay and you invest abroad, in the US for example. Let's say you hold stocks in the New York Stock Exchange, okay? Well, in this case, if you make any money with your stocks, you won't pay any taxes to Paraguay, since that money was earned outside the country. Same thing if you own a business abroad. For example, let's say you live in Paraguay, but you have a company in Brazil or in Europe, okay? Well then, you won't pay any taxes on the money you receive from that company, because it was earned outside of Paraguay. Now, what about the money you make within Paraguay's borders, inside the country? You see, even if you make money inside the country, taxes are still low, with the top income or corporate tax at just 10%. So, it's definitely not a problem to make money inside Paraguay. Taxes will still be very low. So as you can see, Paraguay can be extremely attractive, especially considering how high taxes are in most countries out there, right? However, Paraguay's advantages don't stop there. Paraguay, for instance, also doesn't tax inheritances nor donations, which of course is another great plus, right? So, just imagine how many people and businesses will start moving there just to take advantage of these tax benefits, right? So, that's why I believe Paraguay will be flooded with money in the long run, just like Singapore was. Because who wouldn't want to take advantage of these things, right? But I'm far from done with Paraguay's advantages. You see, besides being an excellent destination for tax planning, Paraguay is also an excellent destination for exporting companies. If you are an exporting company, Paraguay can be a great move for you. And I say that because there, you can operate under the maquila regime. For example, if you set up your exporting company there and use local labor to make your products, you can first import everything totally tax-free, okay? Raw materials, machinery, and then you can export everything almost tax-free as well, paying only a negligible tax. Just so you know, under the maquila law, you pay only a 1% tax on the value added to your products in Paraguay. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you bought all your inputs for $1 million, okay? Then you assembled everything in Paraguay and exported your finished products to another country for $1.2 million. So in this case, how much tax would you pay here? Would it be 1% on everything on the $1.2 million? No, it would be 1% only on the value that was added in Paraguay, which in our case was $200,000. So you would pay only $2,000 in taxes. Yeah, that's correct. If you exported $1.2 million, you would pay only $2,000 in taxes. That's unreal. So mark my words, in the long run, Paraguay will be flooded with exporting companies. In any case, as we can see, Paraguay can already be an excellent destination for both people and businesses looking to do tax planning, invest, and operate. However, as all of this wasn't enough, Paraguay is also working to improve further, discussing several new laws to make the country even more attractive to investors and businesses. For example, Paraguay is now looking to simplify taxes and reduce bureaucracy. They're also looking, for example, to reform their labor laws to make hiring easier, allowing more flexible contracts and reducing labor costs. And on top of that, Paraguay is also presenting infrastructure development plans to modernize, for example, their airports, create new highways, and develop their ports and railway network. But several other measures are also being proposed to boost the country, so definitely a lot of good things could happen there. In any case, it seems for me that Paraguay is clearly laying the groundwork for development to take place. Now, to close this video, Paraguay is also a very interesting place because while most developed countries are simply drowning in debt, Paraguay finds itself in a very healthy fiscal position. For example, as we see here, its debt to GDP is at only 45%. On top of that, while most developed countries are aging really fast, Paraguay has a very young population, okay? And lastly, the country also offers very cheap energy. So it's for all these factors that I believe Paraguay will simply be flooded with capital and investments over the next decades. That's why I think Paraguay is set to boom economically, because it is simply creating excellent conditions for success. Anyway, that's it for today, and see you next time.